people are concerned about these cards, and they are concerning to some extent. New Tenpai Dragon support. Now, just for context, because not everyone might be aware of what Tenpai Dragons are, because it's an archetype that isn't out yet in the TCG. That is actually the first wave of Tenpai support is coming out in Legacy of Destruction, which is releasing, I believe it's like, how far are we away from Legacy of Destruction? Like 2.5 weeks? I believe it's the end of April. Soon TM. 2 weeks, yeah, all right, 15 days, yeah. And the whole idea behind Tenpai Dragon is that it's a blind second OTK strategy that is surprisingly good, actually. Which is somewhat concerning. On the one hand, it's concerning. On the other hand, I find blind second strategies to usually be somewhat okay for the game. I don't know if I've ever had a huge issue with blind second decks in the format. I mean, a lot of I think the problem is that, like, of course, going first is like very, very powerful in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! So on the one hand, when a deck is designed that wants to go second, I find that kind of refreshing. On the other hand, some of the dedicated going second archetypes end up being kind of uninteractive as well, like Mikanko and stuff like that. It's not very fun to go first, or like to go first against the blind second Mikanko, that kind of stuff, right? Like, yes, they are kind of breaking the whole theme of everyone wants to go first, and that can be cool, but at the same time, it's like, okay, well, they only let you go first to just ignore what you're doing and to just kill you immediately. That's also not that fun. And Tenpai Dragon is kind of that. The kind of scary or interesting thing about Tenpai Dragons is that they are surprisingly competent. Is the way to describe it. Like, when I read the first cards for the first time, I said exactly what I said just now. It's like, okay, this looks like another one of those blind second decks, and those tend to be just okay. You know, they tend to just be okay. And then the first couple meta reports happened for the OCG, and Tenpai actually kind of popped off. Let me actually open one just to put it into perspective. Even though I think recently they haven't been that successful anymore, which I think is also let me see if I can find one from a couple weeks ago. Like the first one where it popped up, that'd be the most interesting one. Yeah, here. I don't know if this is the very first one where it popped up, but this is one where I remember, like, oh, Tenpai Dragon and this is basically the same format as we do have, like Fire King and Snake Eye Fire Kings and Pure Snake Eyes and all that, voiceless voice. Tenpai Dragon just came in third most represented deck, on par with Voiceless Voice, and seemed to just be a meta deck, right, for the OCG. And that was, on the one hand, kind of cool to see. On the other hand, kind of concerning, because like Tenpai Dragons, I'm pretty sure they have example lists here somewhere, but Tenpai Dragon is a deck that literally plays very little engine pieces. As you can see, they have like some of their main deck monsters, they have their field spell, they have their quick play spell, that's it. The rest of the deck is just hand traps and board breakers. This deck has room for like legitimately 25 non-engine, and just goes second and kills you. And the funniest thing about Tenpai, and you cannot, this, on the one hand, this might sound incredibly concerning, but I think it's the funniest thing ever, is that they play Pot of Prosperity. Because this deck can OTK under Pot of Prosperity. It doesn't matter. And this is the funniest thing about Tenpai Dragon. It's on the one hand, it's very concerning. On the other hand, it's hilarious that they play Pot of Prosperity, because it does like 30,000 damage and it doesn't matter. On a more recent note, Tenpai Dragon, ever since this first metagame report with it included, where it showed up with like a large number, it has gone down over time. Currently it's sitting at like 5th most represented, maybe like 7%. You know, the success has gone down already, and that is, I think, the one thing I want to say about Tenpai Dragons is no matter how you look at it, it feels like the kind of deck where if your opponent, even if they win game 1 by complete surprise factor, they let you go first and they slaughter you, right? If you side deck accordingly for this deck, it feels like you would be able to win against them in a best of 3 scenario. There might be a lot of stuff, like I'm not sure exactly what they are doing for it. Like I know that, for example, the Snake Eye decks are just summoning this guy, the Lyrilusk level 1 rank 1 Xyz that says can't be destroyed or you don't take battle damage from it, and like you just summon that, you can't die, right? Other decks, I don't know if other decks are doing anything specifically for it. Like Ghost Ogre is kind of good against it, but what I was thinking is if this deck is actually a problem, what you can just do is people are using D Barrier, which completely slaughters it, I think, but you can like theoretically this deck can't even do anything against a threatening roar, but I don't know. All this being, this is a lot of context for before we even hop into the support. Just to say that I think Tenpai Dragons is one of those decks that if it goes under the radar, it can be really powerful, but if people prepare for it, I feel like it's not going to enjoy that. But let's look at the new cards. Why is this so large? Anyways, we have Tenpai Dragon of Genroku. Level 3 Fire Dragon effect monster. You can only use the first and second effect of this card's name each once per turn. If this card is added to your hand, except by drawing it, you can special summon it as a tuner. Then you can increase its level by 1. Okay, so this is just Tenpai Poplar. Quick effect, you contribute this card, special summon a Tenpai Dragon from your deck, except Tenpai Dragon of Genroku. Also, you cannot special summon for the rest of this turn except Dragon. Yeah, this card's incredible. This card is incredible. Because this is just everything this deck could ever want. They even have a Rhoda. They have a, I'm pretty sure they have a quick play spell that has 2 effects. One of them is adding and one of them is special summoning from hand or something. And if you use it in the battle phase, you can use both effects. If you use it outside of the battle phase, you can only use one. So you can just search this, special it, and then tag out. This gives you more starters. This isn't even bad if you draw it as your normal summon, like, because then you just still normal summon it and tribute it. This card is very, very powerful. This card is very powerful. It does not offer, I don't think it offers the deck a different line of play. Like, I think this card basically just increases consistency for the deck, because the one thing that would be the scariest thing that they can do for Tenpai Dragons is to give them alternative lines for going first. Like, if they make good going first Tenpai Dragon cards, that would be crazy. But this card helps them going second a lot. Why are you guys cluelessing me? I have not seen these cards before, by the way. I've only seen people overreacting or reacting to these cards, but haven't read their effects yet. Sennen Kaiu, normal trap. You can only use the first. Oh, there it is. It was loading the picture. You can only use the first and second effect of this card's name each once per turn. During the main phase, if all monsters you control are fire dragon monsters, minimum 1, and your opponent controls more monsters than you do, end this main phase. If 3 or more attacks were declared this turn, you can banish this card from your graveyard, draw 1 card, then you can special any number of Tenpai from your hand. Okay, did you guys clueless me a minute ago because you think that this is their solution for going first? Is this what you meant? Is this even, how do they search this? is it? I forgot if they had a way. They had a way to search spell traps, right? By Dora, yeah. Okay, so I think the viability of this card. So I don't think you would ever main deck this card unless there's a lot of Tenpai mirrors and you are afraid that your opponent is gonna let you go first. But I think the viability of this card would be only for after side decking. Because one obvious strategy that you can do when you play against Tenpai dragons, and let's say they win game 1 and you know that they are a blind second OTK deck, what you can do is you can just send them first, right? And then I think it would be reasonable. They are already playing cards for going first, right? They're like Heatwave or Kaiser Colosseum are their ways of preparing for when the opponent lets them go first, right? And this would be a way where you don't have to hard draw this, right? You can search, you could play one of this card, side deck it, and search it if your opponent makes you start. And I kind of like that. It does that. At the same time, it's not even that strong because there are ways for your opponent to outplay this card because they're gonna know it's there. They are gonna know that it's there, and you have to control one dragon at least. So your opponent, you can only use this as soon as your opponent has 2 monsters, right? And so there are maybe some decks that can pop a back row before they summon their second monster, right? In which case this card wouldn't do anything, right? But still, you know what the problem is? You know what the weird thing is about Tenpai dragons is that you don't know exactly how your opponent is going to react to your deck, right? When you play Tenpai dragon or blind second decks in general, this is always the case. When your opponent knows that you want to go second, right? Are they gonna make you go first, or are they just gonna side a lot of trap cards and just pick first anyways, right? Because if your opponent has a lot of stuff for going first in their side deck, they don't necessarily they might not necessarily make you go first. And then all of these cards, like if I know that I'm playing against Tenpai dragons and that most Tenpai dragon decks in the format are siding in stuff like Kaiser Colosseum and Heatwave because they think that everyone is going to make them go first, then I would at least consider just letting them side deck in all these bad cards. I'm going to prepare my deck for going first against Tenpai Dragon, and I'm just going to pick first anyways, right? And so like, and then these kind of things are not that great, right? Because what are they going to do going second with a Cold Wave, a Kaiser Colosseum, or this card, right? So we're gonna have to wait and see. It depends a little bit. I think if people will make Tenpai go first, then siding one copy of this card is gonna be okay. But yeah. But I don't think this card is that great. I don't think this card is that broken. I think the first one is way more concerning. Then we have a little, oh, this looks like Poke Draco, Dora Draco. Okay, level 3 Fire Dragon. You can only use the first effect once per turn. If this card is normal summoned, you can add a level 4 or lower Fire Dragon from your deck to your hand. Oh, this is Snake Eye Ash for this deck. Okay, once per turn, you can excavate the top card of your deck and it's a Fire Dragon. Send it to the grave. If you do, this card gains 1000 attack. Okay. Dude, they just made Snake Eye Ash and Snake Eye Poplar. What did they think? They were like, hey, what people are playing Snake Eyes so much. What if we made Snake Eyes but for going second? We make Snake Eyes, but it immediately kills the opponent. Okay, well, this card, even though it is not a Tenpai Dragon itself, is pretty good. Especially considering that they have this guy now. Because you can just like normal summon this and then special summon this. The field spell, by the way, which is my least favorite part about Tenpai Dragons, is that the field spell makes fire dragons unaffected. which includes this guy. It's not limited to just Tenpai cards. It also makes this guy unaffected, so you don't have to worry about this guy being ashed or impermed or veilered if you have the field spell. The Tenpai Dragon field spell is terrible, like design. Like on the one, well, like the thing is, guys, on the one hand, it's terrible design, and I agree. On the other hand, it was kind of the only solution that they had to make a viable blind second OTK strategy. We haven't had actually good blind second decks in a while. Like even something like Mikanko didn't quite make it into like meta relevant stuff. Like it was like Mikanko was never more than a tier 2 or tier 3 strategy. Like it really wasn't. And neither was like Numeron or anything like that, right? And then like I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to find a way to make blind second meta viable. And if they want to do that, if they want it to be meta viable, they need to give it some custom stuff like that. Because going second and in Yu-Gi-Oh, like unless you make going first weaker, like if you make going first more balanced, then your blind second stuff doesn't have to be completely custom. But where we are right now with how good going first is in Yu-Gi-Oh, if you want to make someone blind second, it needs to be crazy, right? So yeah, I still don't get why the first card is good. It's just an extra normal summon or an unnecessary extra step towards red or white dragon. You don't get why this card is good? Am I being baited? Am I being one-guyed? There's no shot, right? Nope. Okay, so I'll give you a serious answer, even if there is a chance that I'm being baited right now. So this card is pretty much everything you could want for a deck nowadays, because this card is a starter card that increases your deck's consistency and lets you access every single one of your Tenpais, whichever one you're missing, right? So that in itself would probably already be good enough. Like honestly, if this thing only had the second effect, it would probably already be played in Tenpai Dragons, because it is simply like a quick effect Lone Fire Blossom. That means you draw this, you have whichever Tenpai you want. The first effect on it turns your every single card that can search your Tenpais or add them back from the graveyard into an extender as well. Right, this card just does everything you would ever want for a deck. So yeah. Read his name. I mean, they're called Tenpai Advocate, but they could still not understand why the card would be good. That I don't think that has anything to do with it. But yeah, so you are right. If you open this plus a bunch of other Tenpais, you have too many normal summons. You might not play 3 of this if that's the case, right? But then maybe you play 1 or 2, right, and just have it as a search option, and if you draw it, it's also fine. Kind of like it literally is very comparable to Poplar, right? It's very close to Poplar in terms of its design, in terms of what it does, because Poplar is also a fine normal summon for Snake Eyes, right? And but it's phenomenal if you add in like Snake Eye Ash and Bonfire into the mix, because of how good it makes those cards. And you only play 2 Poplars as a result most of the time, because you don't want to draw multiple normal summons. But this is pretty much the same concept. Like you would never say, I don't get why Poplar is good because it might be another normal summon that I don't really need, you know, because I have so many normal summons already. Like it's pretty obvious why Poplar is good, right? So yeah. But yeah, anyways, Tenpai support is incredible, especially this one card. This one, I'm not sure if you play this. That depends a little bit on how many normal summons you want, but this one could theoretically be okay. The trap is interesting for siding, to make sure you can play when you go first. and this card is very, very strong. I'm a little bit concerned about Tenpais. At the same time, I do think it's kind of interesting to have blind second decks in the format. I just wish that they didn't have to be so broken and able to dish out like 30,000 damage in OTKU through Pot of Prosperity. But like, I think with how powerful going first is, that's kind of necessary. So it is what it is. I don't know. I have a hard time. I think some people are really looking forward to it because they like that playstyle. And some people are really afraid of it. Well, we'll see.